Pay attention to Billy Payne Jr., 36 years old, and Billie Jean Hayworth, 23, putting their 7-month-old son Tyler to bed in their Mountain City, Tennessee home at approximately 11:30 p.m. on January 30th, 2012. They have less than 3 hours left to live because Marvin, Buddy Potter, 60, and Jamie Curd, 38, are about to break into their home and execute them in cold blood, convinced by a fake CIA agent named Chris that the young couple poses a deadly threat. On this night, Billy and Billie Jean just wanted to watch TV and fall asleep together. On this night, someone had been planning their murder for months. This is the story of how Janelle Potter catfished her own parents and boyfriend into committing double homicide, and how IP addresses, email metadata, and Facebook records exposed the most elaborate digital manipulation in Tennessee history.
We found hundreds of emails with a person named Chris. This Chris person was supposedly associated with the Central Intelligence Agency. It looked like Chris was trying to convince the Potter family that there was a real threat from Bill Payne and Billie Jean Hayworth, and that if something wasn't done to stop that threat, then Janelle or possibly the whole Potter family would be hurt.
Billy Payne Jr. lived for his family. At 36, he worked at a local manufacturing plant, coached Little League Baseball on weekends, and was completely devoted to his 7-month-old son Tyler and his girlfriend Billie Jean Hayworth. Friends described him as the kind of guy who'd give you the shirt off his back, generous, easygoing, always smiling. Billie Jean, 23, was a young mother still adjusting to life with a newborn. She'd met Billy through mutual friends 3 years earlier, and they'd built a quiet life together in Mountain City, a small town of about 2,500 people nestled in the Appalachian Mountains of northeastern Tennessee, where everybody knew everybody's business. On January 31st, 2012, around 7:30 a.m., Billy's father went to his son's home to check on him after Billy didn't show up for work that morning. He knocked. No answer. He tried the door unlocked. He walked inside, calling Billy's name. What he found in the bedroom was a scene of horror. Billy was lying on the floor near the bed, shot in the face at close range, his throat slashed multiple times. Billie Jean was on the bed, shot in the head, their 7-month-old son, Tyler, miraculously alive and crying in her arms, covered in his mother's blood. Billy's father grabbed the baby and ran outside, screaming for neighbors to call 911. Johnson County Sheriff's Department and Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, TBI, arrived within minutes. The crime scene told a clear story. This was an execution, not a random home invasion. Both victims shot at close range with a .45 caliber handgun. Billy's throat slashed post-mortem, suggesting rage. No forced entry, the couple knew their killers or opened the door willingly. No robbery, cash, electronics, jewelry, all untouched. The baby unharmed. Whoever did this wasn't there to kill a child. TBI agent Scott Lott began interviewing friends and family. Within 24 hours, a few names kept surfacing. Janelle Potter, her parents Buddy and Barbara Potter, and Billy's cousin Jamie Curd. The common thread? Facebook. According to witnesses, Janelle Potter, a 30-year-old woman who still lived with her parents and rarely left the house, had been feuding with Billy and Billie Jean for months over social media. The conflict had escalated from unfriending to threats, harassment accusations, and eventually real-world violence. Janelle Potter was 30 years old, but had the social development of a teenager. She'd moved to Mountain City with her parents years earlier from Philadelphia and struggled to fit in. She had few real-world friends, rarely left her parents' house, and spent most of her time online, on Facebook, MySpace, email, living in a digital world where she could be whoever she wanted. Prosecutors would later describe her as having a childlike IQ of around 72, with significant intellectual deficits. But she was tech-savvy. She knew how to create fake profiles. She knew how to manipulate people through screens. She knew how to become someone else. In 2010, Janelle befriended a group of young people in Mountain City on Facebook, including Billy Payne, Billie Jean Hayworth, and Billy's cousin Jamie Curd. For a while, they were all friends. Janelle attended social gatherings. She felt included for the first time. But then, Janelle developed romantic feelings for Jamie Curd, who was dating someone else. When her feelings weren't reciprocated, the friendship group began to fracture. Janelle accused Billie Jean and her friends of mocking her online, creating fake profiles to harass her, posting cruel comments about her appearance and social awkwardness. "He's a last again. Some of it was real, some of it was exaggerated, and some of it, investigators would later discover, Janelle had fabricated entirely, creating fake harassment to justify what came next. Sometime in late 2010, Janelle's mother, Barbara Potter, began receiving emails from someone named Chris. Chris claimed to be a CIA operative assigned to protect Janelle from threats. He said he'd been monitoring the situation in Mountain City through surveillance and had determined that Billy Payne, Billie Jean Hayworth, and their friends posed a legitimate danger to the Potter family. At first, the emails were vague assurances that I'm watching over Janelle, promises that I won't let anything happen to her. But over the next year, the messages escalated. Chris claimed Billy and Billie Jean were planning to rape and murder Janelle. He said Billie Jean's friends were part of a coordinated stalking campaign. He warned that Jamie Curd's life was also in danger because he'd sided with the Potters. He described conducting surveillance operations, tracking the targets, gathering intelligence. He talked about his experience as a CIA operative, mentioning past assignments where he'd killed people in the line of duty and saying, "Killing does not bother me at all." Barbara Potter believed every word. She showed the emails to her husband, Buddy, a retired CIA employee who'd worked in maintenance, not operations, decades earlier. Buddy believed Chris was real too. Jamie Curd, Billy's cousin who'd started dating Janelle, also received emails from Chris, warning him that Billy and Billie Jean wanted him dead. Jamie believed Chris was protecting him. For over a year, Chris sent hundreds of emails to Barbara, occasional messages to Jamie, and constantly reassured Janelle, who claimed to also receive messages from Chris, that he was handling the situation. But Chris kept saying he couldn't act directly. He had CIA restrictions. He needed the family to handle things themselves. When Barbara asked Chris for proof, a CIA badge for Buddy, or a meeting in person, Chris always had excuses. "The badge is being processed. I can't meet yet. Operational security. Trust me, I'm here." And they did trust him, because Chris knew things about the Potter family that only someone conducting real surveillance would know. He referenced conversations Janelle had with friends. He mentioned places Buddy had been. He described details only an insider could know. What Barbara and Buddy didn't realize was that Chris knew these things because Chris was Janelle. In the weeks leading up to January 31st, 2012, Chris's emails became increasingly urgent. He warned Barbara that Billy and Billie Jean were planning to kill Janelle within days. He said the threat was imminent. He told Barbara that her husband Buddy, a military veteran who knew how to handle firearms, needed to protect his family. On the night of January 30th, phone records show a flurry of calls and texts between Janelle, Barbara, and Jamie Curd at approximately 1 a.m. On January 31st, Buddy Potter and Jamie Curd drove to Billy Payne's home. They knocked on the door. Billy answered. He recognized Jamie, his own cousin, and let them inside. In-store, and menaced him the Dow. Within minutes, Billy Payne was shot in the face with a .45 caliber handgun. Billie Jean ran into the bedroom and grabbed baby Tyler. Buddy followed her and shot her in the head. Then, in a final act of rage, someone slashed Billy's throat multiple times. Jamie Curd later confessed he was the one who slashed Billy's throat. They left the baby alive and fled. When detectives brought Jamie Curd in for questioning on February 5th, 2012, he failed a polygraph test. Under pressure from TBI agent Mike Hannon, Curd broke down and confessed. But before he told them what happened, he asked a question that stopped investigators cold. "Is the CIA here?" Detectives had no idea what he was talking about. Jamie explained he and Buddy Potter had killed Billy and Billie Jean to protect Janelle from a CIA-confirmed threat. A CIA operative named Chris had been warning them for months that Billy and Billie Jean were planning to murder Janelle and Jamie. Chris said the threat was real, imminent, and the only way to stop it was to eliminate the danger. Detectives were stunned. They asked Jamie for proof that Chris existed. Jamie told them to ask Barbara Potter. She had hundreds of emails from Chris. On February 6th, 2012, detectives executed search warrants for the Potter home and vehicles. In the bed of Buddy Potter's Ford F-250 truck, they found 3 large trash bags filled with shredded documents. It took TBI investigators an entire month to painstakingly reassemble the shredded emails. What they reconstructed was a digital conspiracy spanning over a year, 207 emails between Chris and Barbara Potter. The emails detailed surveillance reports on Billie Jean, and their friends, warnings about imminent threats to Janelle's life, encouragement for Buddy to protect his family, references to Barbara telling Chris that Marvin is really good at killing people, instructions to delete evidence and communications. But the most damning piece of evidence wasn't in the email's content, it was in the metadata. TBI forensic analysts examined the Potter family computer seized during the search. They traced the IP address of every email sent by Chris. Every single one originated from the Potter family home computer. The IP address matched the CenturyLink internet service registered to Buddy and Barbara Potter at their Mountain City residence. There was no CIA operative named Chris. There was no surveillance operation. There was only Janelle Potter sitting at her computer, typing emails to her own mother and boyfriend, pretending to be a federal agent orchestrating a murder. Forensic linguists also analyzed the emails. The writing style, grammar patterns, and phrasing in Chris's emails matched other content definitively written by Janelle. Her Facebook posts, her MySpace messages, her personal emails. Prosecutors also discovered that Janelle had created multiple other fake personas on social media, including accounts that harassed herself to make it look like Billy and Billie Jean were stalking her. The defense argued that malware on the computer could have allowed a third party to send emails remotely, or that someone else in the house could have written the messages. But the sheer volume of evidence, combined with cell phone records showing Janelle coordinating calls and texts with Jamie and Buddy the morning of the murders, made the case overwhelming. Marvin Buddy Potter was tried first in October 2013. Prosecutors played recorded phone calls between Buddy and Barbara from jail where Buddy admitted, "Before you find out from someone else, I want you to know I was involved in it. I did it." The jury deliberated for 3 hours and found him guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences. Jamie Curd accepted a plea deal in exchange for testimony, 25 years in prison for 2 counts of facilitation of first-degree murder. He testified against Barbara and Janelle at their trial. He was released on parole in 2020. Janelle Potter and Barbara Potter were tried together in May 2015. The prosecution presented 207 reassembled emails showing the Chris conspiracy, IP address logs proving all emails came from the Potter home, cell phone records showing coordination the morning of the murders, Facebook messages Janelle sent to herself from fake accounts, testimony from Jamie Curd describing how he was manipulated into believing Chris was real, expert testimony proving Janelle authored the Chris emails based on linguistic analysis. The defense argued Janelle had an IQ of 72 and lacked the sophistication to mastermind a murder. Someone else could have used the family computer to send the emails. Malware could have allowed remote access. Barbara was the real mastermind, not Janelle. On the 11th of May 2015, after hours of deliberation, the jury returned guilty verdicts on all counts. Janelle Potter, guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder, guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder, guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, guilty of tampering with evidence for shredding the emails. Both were sentenced to life in prison. An idea meant, in our fade, why did Janelle Potter orchestrate the murders of 2 people she barely knew? Prosecutors believe it started with jealousy. Janelle had romantic feelings for Jamie Curd, but he was dating someone else and saw Janelle as a friend. When Billie Jean and her friends allegedly mocked Janelle on Facebook, Janelle spiraled. She couldn't confront them in real life. She was socially isolated, awkward, unable to fight her own battles. But online, she could be powerful. She could be Chris, a CIA operative with authority, resources, and the power to eliminate threats. The more she inhabited the Chris persona, the more real it became. She started believing her own lies. She convinced herself that Billy and Billie Jean were actual threats. And when her parents and Jamie believed Chris too, the delusion became reality. Prosecutor Dennis Brooks stated, "Social media allowed Janelle Potter to be someone that she wasn't. She could assume a different identity and be as hateful as she wanted to be. And in this case, that hatred turned into murder." Billy Payne Jr. and Billie Jean Hayworth are buried in Mountain City, Tennessee. Their son, Tyler, now 14 years old, was raised by Billy's family. Janelle Potter, now 42, is serving life without parole at the Tennessee Prison for Women in Nashville. She continues to maintain her innocence, claiming Chris was real and that she was manipulated by him just like everyone else. Barbara Potter, now 73, is also serving life without parole at the same facility. Marvin Buddy Potter, now 71, is serving his life sentence at a Tennessee state prison. In a 2021 post-conviction hearing, he admitted in court for the first time that he killed Billy and Billie Jean. Jamie Curd was released on parole in 2020 after serving 8 years. He now lives under a new identity. The Potter family computer, with its damning IP logs and email metadata, remains in evidence storage at the TBI Forensic Lab. The Janelle Potter case is a landmark example of how digital forensics can expose even the most elaborate online deception. For over a year, Janelle convinced 3 adults that a CIA operative was protecting them. She created an entire persona, backstory, personality, mission, and maintained it through hundreds of emails without ever breaking character. But technology doesn't lie. IP addresses traced every Chris email back to one computer in one house. Email metadata showed send times, recipient logs, and digital fingerprints. Cell phone records proved Janelle was coordinating communications during the murder. Facebook logs revealed fake profiles Janelle created to harass herself. Linguistic analysis proved Janelle wrote the Chris emails based on grammar, syntax, and phrasing patterns. The defense tried to argue that someone else could have sent the emails, that malware could have compromised the computer, that Janelle lacked the intelligence to pull off such a scheme. But the sheer volume of digital evidence, combined with the fact that Janelle never once mentioned Chris's existence to investigators until after Jamie confessed, destroyed her credibility. On the night of January 30th, 2012, Billy Payne and Billie Jean Hayworth went to bed believing they were safe in their own home, their baby sleeping peacefully between them. They had no idea that for months, a woman they barely knew had been writing emails to her own mother, pretending to be a CIA agent, fabricating threats, and slowly convincing her family that Billy and Billie Jean had to die. At 1 a.m., Buddy Potter and Jamie Curd knocked on their door. Billy opened it because it was his cousin, Jamie, someone he trusted. 3 hours later, Billy and Billie Jean were dead. Their baby was covered in blood. And somewhere in Mountain City, Janelle Potter was deleting emails, confident she'd gotten away with the perfect crime. But IP addresses don't delete. Metadata doesn't disappear. And when TBI agents reassembled those shredded emails from Buddy's truck, they found every piece of evidence they needed to prove that Janelle Potter had catfished her own family into murder. This is Billy and Billie Jean's story. This is their justice. This is what happens when someone weaponizes technology to create a fantasy so convincing it becomes real. And when that fantasy demands blood, the technology that created it becomes the witness that destroys it.